Good afternoon, everyone. This is Elizabeth Whitehouse with the Council of State Governments, and we're excited for you to join us on our e-Academy, our webinar on occupational licensure, and we're excited to announce a technical assistance opportunity for the states, we will let everybody get in, and I think that we've got a couple of attendees, it looks like, that are just popping up. But we'll go ahead and get started. We've got a project overview and RFA information today that we're going to go on. And this project, we're so excited to partner with the National Governors Association and the National Conference of State Legislatures. And NCSL are actually heading up this project, and we've got representatives from both of those groups. We have Suzanne Holteen, who is the project manager for this, and also Jeff King, who is charged with developing and overseeing the RFA process at the National Governors Association for this project. So I've got an overview of our webinar and what we're going to cover today on our occupational licensure project, the background, our organizations, who we are and what we're doing, and the project and the learning consortium, what that is and what the plans are for it, the RFA, just some high notes, and then what is the selection process, and we'll have time for some questions and answers, and then an overview of our National Center for Interstate Compacts, which is also part of this work. Suzanne, I will hand it over to you to talk about NCSL and your organization and the project overview.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. This is Suzanne Holteen with the National Conference of State Legislatures. I am going to walk you through an overview of the partnership project that we have just embarked on. But first off, for those of you who are not familiar with NCSL, we are the membership organization for all state legislators and legislative staff in all 50 states and territories. We are a bipartisan organization that provides research, technical assistance, professional development, and opportunities for legislators and staff to exchange ideas. And we also advocate on behalf of state legislatures before Congress. So next slide. We are very excited to be partnering with CSG and NGA on this new project, Occupational Licensing, Assessing State Policy and Practice. In January, the partners were awarded a grant from the U.S. Department of Labor's Employment and Training Administration to examine occupational licensing in the states. Jobs that require an occupational license, which is government approval to practice a profession, has grown significantly over the last 60 years, from about 1 in 20 to now roughly 1 in 4. When implemented properly, occupational licensing can help protect the health and safety of consumers. However, the many differences and disparities in licensing laws across states create additional barriers for those looking to enter the workforce and relocate across state lines. Additional burdens are also created for certain population groups when it comes to acquiring occupational licenses. Next slide. The two primary objectives of this partnership project are to look at ways in which states can reduce barriers to the labor market, ensuring that licensing requirements are not overly burdensome or restrictive. And then we're also going to look at improving the portability of occupations across state lines. Next slide. As I mentioned, certain populations have additional challenges when it comes to entering the workforce. And this project has a focus on identifying and addressing current policies that create unnecessary barriers to the labor market for populations with these unique challenges. Those include military spouses and their families, immigrants with work authorization or foreign trained workers, people with a criminal history, and then dislocated and long-term unemployed workers. Next slide. So the real heart of this 3-year project is the Policy Learning Consortium. This peer learning consortium will bring together teams from 10 states to learn more about occupational licensing in their own states, as well as best practices from across the country. And my colleague Jeff with NGA will dive a little bit deeper into the application process to be one of the 10 states, the composition of the state teams, and then the specific activities. But more broadly, with facilitation of the partner organizations, the consortium states will develop action plans which will determine their priorities and strategies to reduce barriers to the labor market. And the partners will support them in developing concrete steps and helping them implement those steps to the end goal. And then the next slide, please. Along with working specifically with the 10 consortium states, the partners will also provide 50 state data and research on more than 30 regulated occupations, all which require less than a 4-year degree. We will have this report available in the fall of 2017. Coming up shortly, we will have a policy literature scan available, which gives a great overview of occupational licensing across the country currently. And we will also be compiling briefs and information on each of the 4 population groups, looking at what the specific challenges are for them entering the labor market. In years 2 and 3 of the project, we will be providing information and resources on interstate licensure compacts for states that are interested in considering those, of which our colleagues at CSG have a depth of knowledge on, and I believe they will be speaking to here shortly. We will also be providing ongoing webinars like this one, blogs and magazine articles highlighting this project and our work and research on occupational licensing throughout the 3 years. And all of this information will be available on our webpage in the coming weeks at www.ncsl.org/stateslicense. And so with that, I will hand it over to Jeff with NGA.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. So I'll kick things off with a very brief overview of the National Governors Association. We are the bipartisan organization of the nation's governors. As many of you might have heard, we recently just had our summer meeting of the nation's governors in Providence, Rhode Island this past weekend. Through the National Governors Association, governors work together to deal collectively with matters of public policy and governance at the state and national levels. Myself and other colleagues that are working on this project from NGA are part of NGA's Center for Best Practices, which is a 501c3 part of NGA that assists governors and their staff in implementing innovative solutions. We're the only research and development firm that directly serves the nation's governors. Next slide, please. So as Suzanne mentioned, the Learning Consortium, which will select up to 10 states to participate in a multi-year peer learning initiative, is out for selection right now. And as you can see here, just kind of highlighting the key activities that states that are selected through this project will be a part of. Suzanne mentioned the national and state-specific research that our team is already working on and that will be engaging the states that are selected further on in this process. Additionally, we'll have in-person multi-state team meetings each year, the first of which will be this coming December in Tucson, Arizona. So states that are applying are asked to mark that on their calendar, and those that are selected will be invited to send some key leadership to that meeting to sort of kick things off and start learning from your peers and subject matter experts. Additionally, we'll have in-state learning consortium meetings, which will consist of both kind of the core team of leaders that are working on this project in the state, as well as a broader array of stakeholders that are really focused on these efforts. Targeted specific technical assistance, so staff from the project from all 3 partner organizations will be assigned to each state to assist them in carrying out activities and working towards their goals related to this project. As we mentioned, a consortium webinar series. We'll also have other conference calls and learning opportunities. Additionally, a one-stop project clearinghouse, which not only will benefit the 10 states that are selected for this project, but also the broader community of states and territories and the general public to help share lessons learned and have a way for the field to really learn from this project. So, and of course, each state will develop an action plan through this consortium and work with the partner staff on making progress towards goals through that plan. And then finally, our colleagues at CSG will assist up to 3 states in negotiating interstate licensure compacts, and will also provide some additional resources and guidance on that topic as well. So next slide, please. So in terms of benefits to the states that participate in this learning consortium, as I mentioned, access to partner staff experts and other national subject matter experts that we'll be bringing in throughout this project will be one key benefit. Access to other states and organizations to identify best practices and share lessons learned. Again, that'll be through both those in-person meetings, through calls, through webinars. We'll have a lot of opportunities for states to connect on these topics and really start to look at these in depth together. The opportunity to strengthen relationships among key policymakers across the state. NGA actually facilitates quite a few of these sort of learning collaboratives between states, and this is often one of the biggest highlights that states share with us is that, kind of having this shared project and technical assistance resources and kind of defined working relationships, in this case, of course, between both legislative and executive branch leaders, and other key stakeholders. They often cite that as really the biggest benefit, just, having that sort of shared reason to get together to work towards a common objective in a way that they might not if, not selected for such an opportunity. And then, as I mentioned, just, the opportunity to really make progress on a specific action plan, to have, input on that from experts and kind of, work towards some common goals is also a key benefit. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, our request for applications is currently out and available right now. If you have not received it already, my contact information, gking@nga.org, which will be on our last slide for questions and answers here. We're happy to share that and answer any questions that you guys have. Applications are currently due on Monday, August the 21st, and we anticipate having our selections made and announced within about a month of there. In terms of the sort of, the benefits, as I mentioned before, there are a number of benefits specifically related to the technical assistance. Also, eligible travel expenses to national meetings will be reimbursed for state project staff. There's no direct funding, but again, a lot of other resources that we anticipate will be helpful to states that participate. In terms of the length of time for this project, states that are selected will be working on this with the partners from October 2017 through the end of 2019, and all states, commonwealths, and territories are eligible to apply for this funding opportunity. Next slide, please. And in terms of the actual application itself, I'm not going to go through this in detail. I think the important thing to note is, because we really want there to be sort of a strong leadership team in each state that participates in this, that really can, work across different parts of their state government and, kind of hit on the different policy levers that are required to, make progress on this. We're looking for some high-level support from both the governor's office, from the state workforce agency, and from legislative leadership. That could be, a lead of either body of an assembly or the chair of a relevant committee. But again, really looking, to have that signed support that, those that are going to contribute to this project are on board. I want to remind folks too that we can only accept one application per state. So really, in terms of those entities that you need to go to get support for this policy learning consortium, just wanted to stress that, there does need to be a decision on one application to support. We're agnostic to whether that application is coming from a governor's office, an agency, another state stakeholder that could lead this project work, as long as that full partnership team is together as required at the state level here. Next slide, please. And then in addition to, of course, having those letters of support and providing basic information, we do also require an application narrative that, just speaks to some of your goals for the project, the occupations you choose to focus on. We actually have a list of target occupations that you'll see in the request for applications that kind of hits on, in general, occupations that are below the bachelor's level that typically at least 30 states have licensed, and also just some measure of both growth and potential for higher wages for individuals. So again, those are kind of considerations there as well. The states look to see what areas they're going to focus on. Again, not going to go through this all in detail. It's in the RFA, but really want to make sure that the folks kind of have an idea of where they'd like to go with this project, what they can expect to achieve over a little over 2 years. And as I mentioned too, just the members of the core and home team. So the sort of 6 to 8 individuals, both legislative and executive branch, that are focused on this work day to day, that are in senior enough roles that they can help work together, make an impact on this. And then what we call a home team, which would be that broader range of stakeholders that may not be coming to every national meeting or involved in every project call or webinar, but that also have a role to play in this work. Again, the RFA kind of defines that in more depth for you all, but definitely want to stress that the folks that you're sort of bringing to bear and kind of having a plan of where you'd like to go with this is important in terms of the competitiveness of an application. So next slide, please. And speaking of the scoring process, this just gives you guys an overview of what we're looking at. Again, more in depth in the RFA document itself, but you can see we've assigned points that add up to 100 here. Again, similar to what I was saying before, just the ability to sort of tell us where you're going, what you'd like to do, some of your goals, giving us a bit of the lay of the land in your state in terms of where you see the state of occupational licensing, that core and home team membership, and finally sustainability strategy. So again, those are all part of this process in terms of the individuals that will be reviewing applications. Next slide, please. And then in terms of the actual decision-making process, so as mentioned before, we do have a panel of external subject matter experts that includes academic researchers, folks at national think tanks, other folks who may have previous experience working in licensure at the state level. They'll be part of the scoring process for these applications, along with some staff from our partner organizations. They'll be making recommendations to the full partner team based on their scoring of the applications, and then the partners will work together to finalize those selections. And there are just a few other mitigating factors in this. We do put a priority on selecting a diverse group of states. That includes both those that are large and small population-wise, that have some both geographic and demographic diversity, and diversity of political leadership as well, among other factors. So again, in addition to just the overall quality of each application, we'll want to make sure that we have a robust learning community that will really be beneficial for all of the states involved, and then also the can really help inform the broader field as we share lessons learned from this project. So next slide, please. And so yeah, that's our sort of high-level overview of the RFA document. Again, please feel free to reach out if you have not already received this document and would like to get a copy of it. We have this open longer than we typically do. It's, as I mentioned, we're a little over a month out still before the deadline of August 21st. Again, a big part of that is that we want to make sure that because we have coordination needed between both the executive branch and the legislative branch, and in some cases other types of boards and coordinating bodies, we really wanted to make sure that every state had the chance to, reach out to the folks they needed to pull a team together and, have the time they needed to submit a strong application. So we are happy to field any questions you all have now. And again, my contact information is up on the screen there. Feel free to reach out offline as well.
Jeff, Suzanne, thank you so much. I thought this would be a great time because that is a lot of information, and we've given folks a lot of meat to give us a chance to sort of go over a couple of questions that we've received. And to our attendees and folks listening in, if you have questions for Jeff on the RFA or Suzanne on the Occupational Licensure project overall, please feel free to type those on the sidebar where it says questions, and we'll be able to see those and make sure that we answer any thoughts that you want us to tackle on the RFA or on this project. One that came in, Suzanne, was what technical assistance will be available to states who aren't awarded the 10 states, so states other than the 10 that are awarded technical assistance, what opportunities will there be for those states to learn and get information on this?
Yes, great. Well, thank you for that question. Well, as member service organizations, all three partners are dedicated to helping in the states when technical assistance or questions come up. And so this could be anything from information requests that we could do via phone or email, or testimony before committees or task force meetings, connecting states with experts in the field. These are all available to any states. They don't have to be consortium, members of the consortium, but we are happy to discuss any type of technical assistance that would help in your state.
And then we have one more question that we'll go over right now. Jeff, one for you on what does the technical assistance look like that would be provided to states? Sort of what would those visits and opportunities look like?
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. So really a lot of it is customizable. We put a lot of emphasis on working with states around their action plans and, kind of looking at, what their needs are. So it might involve something where, if there's specific information that needs to be shared, we do a lot of just, connecting folks to either experts or folks in other states that might be working on something already that they're thinking about and might have some unique insights. So, really the kind of form that'll take is just some pretty regular check-ins from our team, having some dedicated staff that, each state is used to working with and can reach out to at any time. But again, kind of, working with you all in a targeted way and in a way that makes sense for what you're trying to do. And then, in terms of site visits, things like that, we typically work with your team to, plan something that makes sense. We'll often travel out to states and, facilitate sessions, strategic planning work, things like that. Again, pull in other experts where needed. But yeah, it's fairly open-ended, and we really just want to try to make sure that each state has the resources they need to succeed in this work.
Wonderful. Jeff, Suzanne, thank you. And then if folks have any other questions, we will come back again after our next presentation. Our next speaker is Dan Logston, who is the manager of the National Center for Interstate Compacts. And Dan was going to tell us about one of the other resources that is available to states, where as a part of this project, we'll be looking at developing up to 3 interstate compacts. And so to go over what is an interstate compact, I know the one that I'm most familiar with is driver's license, so that I'm able to drive in states all across the country, even though my license is in Kentucky. So that's always the one that I'm most familiar with. But Dan, if you can sort of give us an overview of the center and your work. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Elizabeth. Good afternoon, everyone. We've seen a lot of action in recent years with licensure compacts, as society is becoming more mobile and people are moving around the country, reciprocity and portability for occupational licensures really come to the forefront for a lot of federation of state licensing boards and associations, and it's things. It's a process that they want their members to be taken advantage of. In the past, I think a lot of that has been handled through MOUs between states that can become very cumbersome if one state has 20 or 30 memorandums of understanding. So in recent years, you've seen the medical licensure compact, you've seen the physical therapist compact, nurses, EMTs, called replica, just activated. They stand up their compact commission this October. We're also working with psychologists. It's a telemedicine compact, and then we're working, the center's also working now with speech pathologists and audiologists, and get calls virtually every week from other professions, licensed professions looking at this. So we don't deal exclusively with occupational licensures. We're just kind of in that area right now. I mean, again, portability and reciprocity in a mobile society is critical, and these associations want to do that for their members, and their members want that. So what is an interstate compact? As Elizabeth noted, you've got the driver's license compact, which people take advantage of every day and probably don't even realize it. The most famous one, likely, is the New York, New Jersey Port Authority compact. It really set the tone for modern compacts, created a powerful interstate agency to manage a common harbor and transportation between New York and New Jersey. These are very powerful, durable, and adaptive tools for states. It's a proven means for states to address common problems, to drive state solutions, and to avoid any sort of preemption or rigid mandates from Washington, and it allows states to, retain their sovereignty. They might have to whatever individual sovereignty they might give up. They certainly gain in their ability to affect what goes on in other compact states. So they've mostly been used. We'll go to our next slide. They've been, they predate, actually, the Articles of Confederation. They were mostly used before the 20th century to resolve boundary disputes, although that's still something that they're used for. They're used to manage shared natural resources. So there's a Colorado River Compact. I believe 7 states belong to it. The Columbia River Gorge Compact in Oregon and Washington is managed by a compact commission. And then what we've seen certainly in the last few decades is a rise of compacts used to create administrative agencies with jurisdiction over a wide range of issues. You see them listed there. You've got state transportation and taxation, environmental matters, healthcare, education, corrections. I think probably some folks on the call are familiar with the Interstate Compact on juveniles and the Interstate Compact on adult offenders, public safety, and then now licensure compacts is taking, frankly, an outsized role as these licensed professions look to allow their members to move freely through various states without having to apply for a license every time they have to set up shop. So next slide, thanks. So again, yeah, as we mentioned, the evolving compact landscape, what that has meant is, sometimes you see, I know this was certainly the case with some insurance compacts. They wanted to head off any sort of federally mandated solution to issues that they were dealing with. With advances in technology, you're seeing that. I mentioned SIPAC earlier, which is a compact that's being sponsored by the Association of State and Provincial Psychology Licensing Boards. Telemedicine is a key component of that compact. So that's an area where technology is driving that profession. You know, I mentioned earlier an increasingly mobile world. People can more easily move around the country, and so they want to be able to take their license that they got in Illinois and practice their profession in California or Kentucky or wherever. And compacts can readily be adapted for use in almost any field. And that's certainly something that we've seen. The key benefits to compacts, you know, their effectiveness and efficiency, economies of scale, allow states to come together with one compacting agency to administer these issues rather than each state having to administer its own area of influence. You've seen flexibility and autonomy compared to national policy. One size certainly, as we say, does not fit all. Dispute resolution among the states. You know, state and federal partnership. We mentioned earlier about one of the populations that we're looking at with this grant was veterans and military spouses. We partner with the Department of Defense on another number of compact issues. They are very out front for military spouses to make sure that as the active duty personnel have to move around the country, that those spouses are able to, they want those spouses and those families to not be inconvenienced or apply for a new license at every posting. So they've been very involved with us to effectuate compacts, especially licensure compacts. And then, you know, the cooperative behaviors leading to compacts can present win-win situations. You know, national priorities get solved by states working together, so state solutions are driving that. Next slide, please. I mentioned some compacts earlier, and this is by no means a comprehensive list, but as far as licensure compacts, and most of these are in the medical field, enhanced nurse licensure compact, EMS licensure compact replica, which I just mentioned a few minutes ago. They're activated now. They're going to stand up their commission in October. Medical licensure compact, physical therapy compact, and then their SciPact. They've got 3 states. They need 7 to activate. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the speech pathologist and audiologist are a group that we're also working with. And then the last slide is just, you know, every state is a member of a compact, some more so than others, but that map kind of gives you a feel of where those are. And if you'd like to see which compacts your state is a member of, you can go to our website. It's csg.org/NCIC, or you could just Google National Center for Interstate Compacts, and I believe it comes up. But we're excited to be working on this DOL grant and look forward to participating in all the meetings. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Dan, thank you so much for giving us sort of an idea of what is an interstate compact and how it works, and especially in regards to occupational licensure issues. I know that a lot of states that have border issues where they'll have populations like Bowling Green, Kentucky, and Nashville, Tennessee, they'll see a lot of folks live in one state and work in another, and looking at how credentials and licensure issues work, this is definitely really salient to a lot of the conversations that state leaders are having. I think that we have a question, Dan, on what are the steps to create an interstate compact. So what if a couple of states had an issue, or if there was an occupation that was wanting to engage more, what would be the steps that they would take? Well,
the first thing they would need to call the National Center for Interstate Compacts. But we've done a lot of these over the years, especially even a number of, I think the only 50 state compacts the National Center and CSG have been involved with. But it's a very collaborative process. It brings in stakeholders. By the time it gets to the legislature, and certainly by the time it gets to a governor's desk to be signed, those folks can rest assured that everyone's issues have had a fair hearing and been addressed. It starts out with an advisory group that meets 2 to 3 times over a 3 to 4 month period. It consists of anywhere from 15 to 25 people. We bring them in to discuss all the elements of a potential compact. Is it feasible? What would they like to see in this compact, and what are some areas where we need to have some frank discussions and come to some terms on some things. If we can get past that, which we usually can, you move on to the drafting stage, where you appoint a team to draft a compact. That's subject matter experts and attorneys over a 2 to 3 month period. They'll work it out. We'll go back to the advisor committee after that, talk with stakeholders, obviously, and other state leaders. And once everyone signs off on the product, then that's when the fun starts. You go to the legislative part of it, phase 2, to get the compact enacted. There's a triggering mechanism for national compacts. It's typically 35 states because they want to create national policy, and that's kind of been a magic number. But with, I think, as I mentioned earlier, SIPAC 7 states before it activates. And the reason you want to be one of those first states is you get to help write the rules for the compact. So there's a little bit of competition there to get involved. And then once you hit your trigger, once it's been enacted in enough states to trigger the compact, you move on to the transition period, where if it calls for a compact commission agency to be set up, you go about that process to stand it up, create administrative rules, bylaws, and actually start effectuating the compact with the states that are members. So it's a long process, and but it has to be to give people confidence that this is going to both accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish, and so that policymakers in various states can have confidence that all the issues have been vetted by the time it gets to them.
And thank you. If we have any other questions, you can just put them into the little sidebar on your screen. But we will have this presentation with all the information from Suzanne and Jeff and Dan on our website probably in about a week, where we'll have information to this and maybe some supplemental materials as well. Thank you all so much for joining us today and giving us an opportunity to talk about how we can best serve our members, the states and state leaders, as we look at occupational licensure and how do we improve labor market participation, especially for this 4 target groups and this exciting project. We're excited to be rolling up our sleeves and engaging with state leaders and doing good work in the states. Please feel free to contact myself, Elizabeth Whitehouse, at ewhitehouse@csg.org, or within the presentation you also saw Jeff's information on the RFA in Dan's, and Suzanne is our fearless leader on this occupational licensure project. So she'll be the person we turn to if we have any questions, and she's got a lot of the answers on next steps. But we're excited to work ahead, and please let us know if we can be of assistance as states craft their RFAs. Thank you.